As Israel celebrates the waning of the fourth wave of the coronavirus, its problems in the medical arena are far from over. As last week, some 2,500 young doctors and interns handed in their letters of resignation over the government's failure to pass legislation to shorten 26-hour work shifts. And joining us now to discuss this is medical student Jonathan Alk. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So you are part of the organization Milsham, which is helping and consulting the doctors through this. Now, why did they hand in their letters of resignation? I mean, this is a very drastic move.
Indeed, but a drastic move is because of a drastic deterioration of the original plan. People have to understand that originally there was a plan conceived by Milsham, by the interns, the residents, and the health ministry, calculating all the costs and all the manpower required, which actually was supposed to induce the shortening of shifts from 26 hours currently to 18 hours on 25 to 30% of medical residents around the country, including internal medicine wards, the corona fighters, all the corona departments, the ICUs, the ER, and with the surgical departments in the periphery moving forward to the center of Israel. And a night, actually, before the discussion in the health committee by MK Idit Silman, the health ministry suddenly changed their position. Now it's only 10%, leaving out all the internal medicine wards, leaving out the ERs and everyone, almost everyone out. And also the surgical departments are suddenly removed from the new plan, and they may discuss it in 5 years if to add them or not, which led us to do that exact move of resignations.
I mean, it's just a drop in the bucket, obviously 10%. I mean, what are you asking for now, essentially, to go back to the original plan, 25 to 30%?
Exactly. The plan was already agreed on, the plan that guarantees that by the end of 2026, every medical resident in Israel will work no longer than 16-hour shifts plus 2 hours of shift transfer to either the morning staff or the department that you did your shift in. And we don't understand why we were forced to go down that road, because we were pretty sure that we're going to get a fair plan that will help every medical resident, that will help our patients. And all of a sudden, the health ministry wants to induce another committee and think about it a little longer when everything was already agreed upon. And we were blindsided in the Knesset.
Mm-hmm. Now, Health Minister Nitzan Horowitz going on television saying that even so, 10% is major progress after 10 years of essentially no legislation passing. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are that indeed it's the first time that a move like that was accomplished by a health minister, but I don't see that as an accomplishment. Actually, I think that the health minister is forgetting every time he says what he says on TV to mention that some of the residents might not even get a real shortening of their shifts because that new plan leaves out some of them with all what ifs and little letters in the new plan. So I think that maybe he should be more upfront that this new plan is not good, that this new plan is harming both to residents and to patients in 90% of the cases that you will need medical attention.
Now, Health Minister Horowitz also saying that 25 to 30% is unrealistic because there is currently such a shortage of doctors. And with the coronavirus pandemic and, let's say, flu season on the way, he says it's just not realistic. So what do you have to say to that?
First of all, I think the health ministry thought it's very realistic when they calculated everything and agreed upon the budget and the manpower. I also want to remind that during the pandemic, 500 manpower personnel staff were added, and those spots were filled immediately. So, and also there are people who finish med school, finish their internship, and are waiting to start residency. They're waiting at home with no job. So I think there are enough doctors. It just requires the money. Now, 2.5 billion shekels of health budget and only 60 million per year, for adding staff and personnel. I think maybe the financial calculations were a little off, and I think that if they'll do it again, they'll see that what we already agreed upon is not only doable, but is much more fair and better for the system.
Now, I'd like to talk for a moment about the doctors themselves. I mean, can you share with us some of the conditions that they're under? I mean, 26-hour shifts seem, unthinkable in a way.
It is unthinkable, and many people that I talked with in the street don't believe that's actually the situation, but it is. I think physiologically, it's important to understand that the human mind is not able to sustain so many hours of awakeness, and damage is done both to the doctors and to the patients. I mean, in Israel, there are actually regulations that prevent bus drivers, truck drivers, cab drivers from driving and working more than 12 hours because, and I quote, they are a danger to those around them. So in Israel, we have kind of an absurd thing that you're too dangerous when you're driving long hours on the road, but you're not dangerous to anyone when you're holding a scalpel or calculating dosages or making life-saving or life-threatening decisions because you're so tired.
All right, Jonathan Alk, we're out of time, but thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us about this important issue.
Thank you for having me.
Continuing on the same topic, joining us now to discuss the impact of the strike on Israel's health system is Professor Nadav Davidovitch, Director of the School of Public Health at Ben Gurion University. Welcome.
Hello.
So over 2,500 doctors handed in their letters of resignation last week. It's been a couple of days now. How has this impacted hospitals and patient care so far?
So far, actually, it's only about resigning. It's mainly a move to put pressure. The resignation is going to enter into effect in the coming 2 weeks or more. I'm almost positive that the labor court will also intervene. But I think that we need to see the long term. This problem is already with us for more than a decade. The conditions of working in hospitals, not the salaries I'm talking now about, but all the, the support that is needed, actually finally got many of these young and exceptional professionals to get into the situation that are signing a resignation letters. You can just imagine the psychological effect. I think that, on the other hand, maybe we have finally an option to resolve what has been for more than a decade, very harsh conditions. Now with COVID, it just served as a mirror to show us how these conditions are creating a trauma on the personal level, on the family level. I really hope that all those who are taking part in these negotiations, of course, first of all, the Israeli Medical Association, but also Ministry of Health, Ministry of Finance, all of them will sit together because we have finally the option to solve on the long term the situation and not giving just a Band-Aid like we did for so many years.
And so what needs to happen now, essentially?
I think they need a strong process of mediation because it's quite clear that it should be a gradual process. We cannot just move to a shorter night shift, just from one day to the other. The process needs to be gradual, and I think the main controversy now is it just going to be 10% and moving ahead, or maybe we can be more flexible. I just must say that there cannot be just one solution for everybody. We must have each sector. It's one thing about surgical specialties. It's a different thing, internal medicine or ICU. And I think each one of them deserves its own process. Like, for example, the public health physician. I'm a public health physician. For example, we don't have overnight shifts, but because of that, we have other problems. And this is why it's very hard for us to get new people coming to our internship. So we need very, very fine and sophisticated solutions that are going to be finally for the best of all of us, for patients especially, but also for these young professionals and things that happened several decades ago. And my father is an anesthesiologist. I remember as a child I was working, but this is something we cannot continue. I think everybody understands now. It's just a question of how gradual we're going to do it. We're going to start with the periphery. I'm from Ben Gurion University. I think it's a good move, but I think there's a middle ground that can be found in the solution that will be for the long term.
All right, great. Professor Nadav Davidovitch, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Thank you.